Green light. Go, go, go.
There we go. Good night, good evening. Hello, hello. Oh, jeez, what a start. Fuck me. I'm still like that. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I just got off guard completely. Welcome back. Tuesday night, LNR, GT4 Madhouse. Not a big showing this evening. It's Oulton Park. I can fully understand that completely. But again, with me tonight as well, we got our expert from the United States of the Americans, Giancarlo Schooler. Schooler.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I think it'll be a good race tonight despite the low numbers. You know, I think we have some really good talent in here with Duploy. I think he'll, you know, put up a good fight for the lead here. I think, you know, maybe Patterson will get in the mix. I think it'll be a good fight tonight.
I think it will be. I mean, taking from where we've been in the season, we currently what, round 5. I've missed 1 or 2 here and there. Deploy was phenomenal last week. Like he took it from pole to finish all the way through in that 45-minute race. We had, I can't recall seeing him at the Monza race because that was predominantly dominated by the Porsches. But however, this man in the Alpine has been on fire lately, and he's busy doing his quick lap, getting there past the KTM. So it seems to be that he's probably the man to watch, is where I'm going with.
Yeah, I would definitely agree there. You know, Patterson is leading this championship by 9 points currently, but to Bauer. But you know, Deploy, I think he's gonna put up a good fight tonight. You know, he's a little bit back from Patterson in the championship, but I think it'll be a good fight for him tonight. You know, I think he might be out of the championship contention, but I think him and Patterson will have a great fight tonight.
Yeah, championship-wise, I would agree with you. Patterson is potentially the man that's going to take it overall. I did have my eye out on Bauer and those guys doing phenomenal throughout the season. Now, I actually can't even recall whether there's a throwaway or not. So Patterson leading, Bauer second, Mayer I haven't seen in a few races, so he's missed a few. Janneman, on the other hand, is definitely crawling up there. So even though Janneman has been doing quite at the back end of the grid the whole time, he's still running consistent races. So easier to finish the championship full on and gain as much as he can to potentially get in that top 3 mix of overall championships.
Yeah, you know, 2 rounds to go. There's plenty of time left to, you know, see where things go. You know, 4 races in total left, 2 sprint races at each of the rounds. So I think it'll be interesting to see how the championship shakes out. Smaller good tonight, so of course everyone will score, you know, a hefty amount of points, but nonetheless, Niall Bullion going P1 at the moment, about a second to Paris before Ferreira comes in. He's now 2 tenths down to Niall.
Yeah, so I think for Oulton Park we're going to see a different variety as what we've seen before. So taking back from Monza last week's Nürburgring, the dominating cars there were the ones that had straight line speed. So the Porsches, the Astons, the BMWs, those cars were up there in the front. And I've seen Bullion and his Ginetta struggling for pace down the straight. So I reckon the Ginettas are going to do phenomenal here. The KTM will do just as great, and the Alpine. Porsches is still a strong car though, so I'm not going to write off the guy like Wilson, who's currently struggling to put a lap down, nor the McLaren.
Yeah, this is a very agile track, you know, compared to the longer ones such as Monza, where we have the long straights. So, you know, handling comes a big part of this track here. I know a few years ago when GT4 just came out, I ran a sim grid race here in the Camaro, and I did not fare well. So I think it'll be interesting to see how the cars shake out here. We have an Alpine on pole currently, followed by Ginetta and then Audi. So far it's shown that the more agile cars are definitely proven to be quite well here.
They are, and I still love, as much as most individuals don't love this track. I mean, it's not good for passing opportunities. You gotta make it, and you gotta force the opponent to make a mistake in order to gain that position. Where you qualify is where you potentially end up. But for a GT4 track, it is absolutely phenomenal. It's so much fun. Like, there's so many opportunities in GT4s where you can do actual door-to-door racing as opposed to the GT3s.
Yeah, 100%. You know, SRO, I think, visited this track 2 or 3 weeks ago, and the GT4 racing was phenomenal all around. Even the Ginetta GT5 Cup, those guys were having a blast out there on track. So I love these tracks, these UK tracks. You know, they're a little more tighter, technical, but you know, they can still provide great racing. And I think it even shows, you know, even more skill when somebody can pull off a pass at these tracks, where it's so technical to pull off a move. Where, you know, if they can actually pull it off and it's clean, it's, you know, even more commendable to themselves.
Yeah, that's true. Now this caught my eye. This is the Stewart. Not a man I'm known to have seen over the last few races, so I reckon this is a new name unless I've actually missed you throughout the season and haven't seen you at all. Welcome to the race. Apologies if I've never called you out anywhere else. Wilson, on the other hand, is still struggling to find any momentum to get his qualifying down, and he's got less than 3 minutes to do a decent lap, which is unusual.
Yeah, it really is. Currently, Duploy is up 3/10 on his fastest lap time right now, so he's on for about a 41.4 at the moment. Niall Bullion's also up 3.5 tenths on his lap time, so we'll see if he can lessen the gap between him and P1. But, you know, I think we're pretty close midfield here at the moment. We have likes of Patterson, Ferreira, Breeze, Mole, all within about 5/10 here, so I think this will be a pretty good race.
It should be, and speaking of race, I mean, we got two 20-minute races up this evening, so we're going to get the boys to do a sprint race. I would believe is what we always see in the sprint race series, your first 20-minute race. People generally take it a lot calmer through the first couple of corners, and then they get braver by the second one, which is going to keep the stewarding team quite entertained. In all fairness, they're going to have their hands full in the second race.
Yeah, 100%. I think as you know, you get more accustomed to the track and you get more accustomed to the racing here. You know, sometimes people start to see the red mist. You know, especially tracks like these where you know it's hard to pass. You really have to take a few deep breaths and you know calm yourselves down when you're getting frustrated behind somebody else. But currently, I see Perunis is up 7/10 on his lap time here, so he should go provisionally to P3 if he holds it up. But we'll see if he's able to complete this lap.
Yeah, he's definitely in the final sector where it's probably the trickiest section out of all, especially this right-hander. You got to choose and get your brake marker spot on, and then on that throttle as soon as you hit to hit the apex. And he did seem like he lost a bit of time, but managed to gain up there. Oh, big slide on the rear end there as he exits the final corner. That definitely lost a few tenths down there. No real improvement in overall time though, but he is going to give it another go. He's got one more lap to do so. No, he bullets it out, calling it a day. Anyone else on the mark? Gernick, on the other hand, he looks like he's picking up a few tenths. So is Wilson, but again, Wilson, still no lap from him.
Yeah, Patterson also up 3/10, but not enough to mount the gap between him and Niall at the moment. So we'll see if he finishes P3 or if he's able to find those extra 4/10, 5/10 for him to get to Niall. But look at that mid-pack. I mean, P3, 4, and 5, all within a tenth. You love to see it. And that's one of the things that these smaller technical tracks provide. You know, the qualifying is so important here, like you said earlier. You have to get it right, and you know, if you don't, you'll be stuck behind a lot of cars that you may be potentially faster than. So good to see those tight, close racing, even though Patterson may go faster here. You know, it looks like there's going to be a good fight for the midfield.
Yeah, if like you said, if he gets that 3/10 up, he needs a bit more than that to push Nel Bullion out of that second spot. Based on that exit, it looks phenomenal. He just got one corner to pull it off though. So this might be very close. All he needs is a good exit. Oh, it just looked like he lost a bit of time coming out of that corner. And that was quick. Holy crap. Did not expect
Looks like
that.
Wilson did get a time on the board. He'll finish P6 in qualifying, so good to see him finally get time on the board there.
Let's see if I can get this done, because I normally nail it from my best approach. So qualifying standpoints, this is where we are. 20-minute race, not a lot of boys on the track. We've got Deploy in first, Nel Bullion in second with his little orange car over there, followed by Alan Patterson, championship leader at the moment. Then we've got T. Ferrara and his Audi, good mix up there. German Prius and the Mercedes-Benz in fifth place, followed by Wilson, who finally got a lap down in sixth, with Mole in 7 and the only McLaren on track. And of course, we've got another Janetta there by Herzeg in P8, followed by Duplessis in 9 with the Aston Martin. Doesn't really look like Aston is doing very well here. KTM, that's a good qualifying there by Gernick. Then that's the broadcasting team. Then we've got Schooler, who's commentating, and then B. Stewart way at the back of the pack here, who did not manage to put a lap down. I reckon, even with a small amount of people on the grid, only 11 technically racing this evening. this might just be some good fun.
30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Personally, I think Patterson can make a push here. Didn't qualify, I'm sure, as well as he would like to have. But you know, him in P3, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in deploy. You know, mixing it up later in the race potentially.
Yeah, that's true. And from recollection, even in past races, I
10 seconds.
keep on recalling that poor Janetta was stuck behind that Aston Martin every single time. This time around, it's quite the opposite. I'm hoping that Neil gets a good off the line. If he's not, he's definitely going to capitalize that on the second race, purely based on frustration. But if he doesn't get off the line well, and I think the Alpine will do phenomenal because it's such a nimble car. It's whoever can get through the first 2 corners that will survive the rest of the race.
Yeah, the first 2 laps here are really key. You know, with all the cars bunched up, you want to make sure that you can get as many overtakes done in as small amount of time as possible, just so you can get to the front, and then later on in the race you can defend, which is a lot easier, you know, in my opinion, at this track. So, see what these drivers do here. We'll see what Niall takes the more aggressive and more conservative route and tries to defend off Patterson, but I think it'll be a great race all in all. I do want Niall to get a good finish here. You know, Janetta's been lacking all season, like you said. You know, it's definitely underpowered, so I think this track, if there's anywhere that Niall's going to have a good result, I think it's going to be this one.
It probably is. And I commentated it on every single previous races. Those boys that haven't seen it, go back, have a look at it. Every time down the straight, that poor Janetta just fell short. Like completely. It just ran out of steam, momentum, pace, turbos falling apart, wheels coming off the sides. I just didn't want to do long straights, and this is the track that he needs to make a serious effort into either winning or stay up there in the mark for the podiums to make a dent in the championship. This is the time for him to bring it on.
Updated with drop rounds, and Christian is leading the race by the championship by 4 points. Then Alan and Fleming 3 points behind him. I've taken through 2 races.
The sideline points that's running in the championship here.
Well, I just fixed it from
This will be very interesting. With Deploy on pole and leading the championship, you know, Patterson has a little bit of pressure on him now. You know, he has to make the move if he wants to lead this championship here.
That's for sure. I'm gonna see if I can try and grab this just to get everyone a potential visual. You can continue talking.
Yeah, it's been an impressive series so far from Deploy, though. I mean, he's had 43 points, the maximum that you can get, I think. You know, in 3 of the 4 rounds so far. The only round he didn't compete in. So, well on the Deploy so far. You know, he's had a great season so far. But Alan Patterson has been keeping it consistent. You know, unfortunately Bauer couldn't be here with us today, so that's really unfortunate. So, he won't be able to fight for his title. But I think it'll be a great fight here today between Deploy and Patterson. As we come to the start now, let's see how it turns out.
Green light, go, go, go.
They're off. And that's a good start from the Alpine. So with the Janetta, contactless for corner 1, that is phenomenal. As they head down the straight, that Audi made a couple of moves as well, got the jump on the Aston Martin. So we've got Alpine, Janetta, Audi, Aston, and Wilson right behind Patterson.
Yeah, and one thing I just saw as they came through turn 3 for the first time, we didn't mention it yet, but track limits, you know, could be a potential issue here. It was a short 20-minute race, but this track is very, very sensitive when it comes to track limits, which I think that's part of the reason Anthony Wilson was having such a hard time getting a lap in qualifying. You know, track limits here are very, very strict, and we could have a potential drive-through, but we'll see how that shakes out.
We can, and just going to the mid-pack, like you said, that's where all the action predominantly will be. Ferrara got a jump start on Patterson, So he is leading that Aston Martin. That doesn't mean that that Aston Martin's going to let him go as he slides out of that corner. That's going to compromise his speed for the following straight. I don't think there's enough juice in that Aston to make a move now, but he's going to stick to him as close as he can. Oh, good apex there.
They might go side by side through the last corner here. We'll see what Patterson goes for the move. He's going to peek out, but then he's going to shortly pull it behind after. So it might be setting up for the corner exit here. He gets a good exit. We'll see what we can make out of it.
This is
down the inside for turn 1.
That is the corner 1 opportunity. Side by side as it looks like it. Is he going to open the gap up? Now Ferrara does give him enough space, but not not enough for him to actually make a move there. But that allows Wilson to come in closer than what he was before. Oh, Alan went a bit defensive, but also overshot his braking marker.
Yeah, I'm surprised by the legs on that Audi so far. You know, even to the last corner there, I thought Patterson, you know, would be able to get the move done in turn 1, but the Audi just has so much legs on the Aston, he wasn't able to get it done.
Yeah, even with the, like, how it literally looked like the Audi just lost it on the rear end, but went very wide coming out of the final corner, thus not having that much momentum. And the Aston just couldn't capitalize. Now this is another point. You can see the Audi going out very slowly there, but he seemed to have a lot more pace down the straight. Again, Alan, looking on the inside, decided to stay away. Even though this is a 20-minute sprint race, the last thing you want is to damage your car, go to the pits and lose all the positions you have.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, you know, what the setup changes are, what the differences are between Patterson and Ferrara here. It looks like Patterson might be running a little bit higher wing than Ferrara himself. You know, that may be part of the cause of the legs difference, because, you know, you would think with the Aston has, you know, better legs than the Audi, but not so far, it doesn't seem that way.
No, it just doesn't. And the exit out of from the Audi on certain corners just looks so slow. It's just like that Aston is more balanced going corner in and exiting versus the Audi. Now, whether that is that Ferrara is constantly looking in his rear view mirror, trying to understand when Patterson's going to make a move. Oh, dives on the inside, slows it down tremendously just to avoid contact there. This is exciting.
Yeah, you know, Patterson, like you said, looks a lot more comfortable in the car right now. You know, he's on the, oh, we have a spin, and he gets hit. That is very unfortunate there.
I was at the point. To me, all I saw was the Audi losing his rear end as he went a bit too far on the grassy knoll. Thought about cutting a bit of grass, and then, of course, Alan was just a victim, because I don't see that he would have been in a position to stop the two cars from colliding.
Yeah, like we said there, you know, the setup differences, we said that, you know, Ferrari might be running a low downforce setup, and that could be the result of that. As you see, Herzog is up in the P6, but yeah, like you said, oh, yeah, there, okay, that's the issue. So Jacques on the P8 for Herzog there. But yeah, you know, it's unfortunate that they're having a good fight between Ferrara and Patterson, but I think Ferrara will work his way back up through the grid, and we'll see where he finishes.
We will. He can definitely come back after that. He hasn't gone to the pits. Another battle in the mix here is, of course, Mole and Duplessis. We've got an Aston and McLaren here. Again, these boys have been very cautious from the start of the race. Let me just have a look and see who has gained. Duplessis has gained 2 positions, Mole has gained 1. And of course, Ferrara is the biggest loss at the present moment by 6 positions. Oh, as we talk about Mole going far off track, opens the gap to Duplessis. He'll certainly take that.
Yeah, and just looking through the speed traps here, you know, actually surprisingly enough, Ferrara 207 kilometers now at the speed trap, while Patterson was up at 209. So, you know, maybe it's just a deceiving look, you know, the legs of the Audi, but I think he definitely, you know, was definitely feeling the pressure, and, you know, it paid off for Patterson just staying behind him there.
Just allowed him to have more pressure, made him made the error in the race in itself. Now, as we look at Wilson going way off track there, now whether he's a bit distracted by the Mercedes chasing him down, Janeman Prius doing phenomenal. And I actually want to just get this moment to see if I can show the boys the championship standings at the moment where we've talked about it. So Deploy is leading it, then Alan Patterson followed by Bauer, De Santos, Meyer, Duplessis, Nel and Janeman. Those are your top boys in the championship at this stage. This has been phenomenal. Boys on chat. So Ashley there, Ike there, M3 Supercharged, now from Recollection Supercharged. You generally would always scream and shout out for your boys, Mr. Patterson there in PWSR, who's now comfortably in P3. I don't think he's going to make the same mistake in the second round for the second 20 minutes, allowing an Audi to surpass him.
Yeah, I don't think so either. You know, especially with the the amount of times they were battling, they've lost so much time to Nile and Deploy. They're now 4.5 seconds back to Nile alone. So
Yes.
you know, I think he wanted to make the move, but I think in the long run, he may have been better just staying behind him because now Patterson's lost so much time. Nile is free in the wind, and I don't really think they'll be catching him. You know, Patterson lost about 8/10 last lap, so I truly think that Nile's going to finish P2 here.
Yeah, the top three boys at the moment with 12 minutes on the clock, if they do not get a drive-through penalty based on track cuts, I think they are settled as it is. Going back to Duplessis and Maul now, even though Maul did make a mistake out of turn 1, he has managed to gain back onto Duplessis as this battle seems to continue. And then back at the grid, now we have Koenig and he's KTM, and he's got Herzeg in the Ginetta, and then Ferrara is trying to move up the spots again.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Ferrara has any damage. You know, I think he definitely made contact with Patterson, but I'm not sure if the contact was heavy enough to sustain any sort of damage. But I'm sure we'll see here, in the long run, as they're really mixing it up here. He's going for the outside move, 3 wide, and Ferrara's off in the dirt. Koenig spun around, and looks like Herzeg will be the winner of that battle.
Yeah, Herzeg definitely the winner of that, but I want to go back and see if I can have a quick squint of that. That was a bit hair-raising. So all of them going down. It looks like Koenig just didn't get enough speed and momentum. Herzeg went way off, and then they thought of just... Oof. It just seems like Koenig braked, and that caught both cars behind him off guard.
Yeah, good recovery from Ferrara there to get back on track without hitting the wall. So props to him. But yeah, I'm not sure what really happened there. I'm not sure if Koenig surprised the other two drivers, what could have been the cause there. But Deploy is running away at the moment. 5.5 second gap to Niall Bullion at the moment. He's running quick laps, running about a second faster than Niall last lap, a 41.8 to a 42.9. Patterson is still losing to Niall. Wilson losing to Patterson. I think we have a pretty good fight for P5, 6, and 7 here. But we'll see what happens. Actually under attack here from Paris. Yeah, that Porsche seems to be handling pretty well for Ashley at the moment. Despite his struggles in qualifying, I think he's had a pretty good race so far.
Yeah, he's gone back. He's got his momentum. He just needs to keep his cool. I do see him make a few mistakes here and there when exiting the corner. Whether he's pushing that car a bit too much, or even whether he has taken a bit too much wing off the rear end that makes his car slide around a lot. But if I compare the Porsche and the Merc, the Merc just seems more balanced. Now that could be because the car's vastly heavier than the Porsche though, but I don't know. Pressure? Stress? There we go. As we talk, just went off the line. Prius is gonna take that for sure. That's an easy move.
Yeah, we'll see if Ashley can get him back here. Prius' fastest lap is about 8/10 faster than Wilson, so I'm not sure Wilson quite has the pace to hold him off or get back to him at this moment. But I'm sure in the long run we'll see. We're pretty good fight for P6 here with Duplius and Mole fighting the Aston McLaren going toe to toe here. But yeah, in the long run of things, I think Deploy played his cards right. He had a safe race, and I think if he can just keep it on the black stuff and finish his race, I think he'll easily have the championship lead going into the last round.
No, for sure. And considering that you've got 2 20-minute races this evening, that's all you got to do. Get off the mark as Duplessis makes a mistake this time. Gives the position back to Mole. These two boys are like fighting like brothers, being kind to one another every time someone makes a mistake.
Yeah, it's good to see the clean racing here so far. I mean, other than the incident of Karnik, we really haven't had that much car contact, which is always great to see. And especially a track like this, where it's tight, and technical. Sometimes it's really hard to avoid accidents. You're racing so close to one another, within 2, 3, 4 tenths. That car in front of you brakes heavier than you think, and just like that, you're into the back of them.
Yeah, especially for GT4s. I mean, the GT4 cars, for them to enter and exit a line, they generally have to stick to what they go to. They don't necessarily enjoy changing direction through a corner, so that will put them off the belt. As we look at Ferrara again, I did see a yellow there, and I'm not certain what was that for. I reckon he probably just made another mistake there going into that corner. Let's just go back and review that. Everything looks good as he enters the corner. There goes a bit on the grass. Yeah, misses his brake point. Bit too deep. Oh, makes a collision with the wall. That's gonna upset him for sure.
Yeah, so at this point you really have to wonder, how much of his incidents so far have been due to that initial contact with the wall, with Patterson, early on. Could be a lasting effects of those, but looks like here Mola's built a pretty good gap to Duplius here. I'm not sure what happened that last lap, but 3 seconds is the gap now, as we really only have Wilson and Prius going at it at the moment.
Yes, they're the only individuals battling at this stage. Now, as you can see, look at that. That is a big gap created there by Mole, so Duplessis potentially did a big mistake of about 3 seconds. I didn't see anything flag on the radar as a yellow though, but he's going a lot slower than what he was before.
Yeah, the biggest thing with these cars, like you were talking about, the GT4s versus the GT3s, is, getting the weight to transfer is a big part of these cars, and when you're changing lines quickly, the car, gets really upset when you're trying to do that. So it's important to make one initial turn in, stick with it, and then open it up as you get to corner exit. If you make any corrections or changes in between the corner entry and exit, then that's where you stop the car and, you have mistakes occurring.
Definitely. No two ways about it. Going back to the lead again. I just want to have a look and see how Deploy. He's practically untouchable in an element of his own, making 0 mistakes throughout the race, running low 41s as you've said, still the man with the fastest lap at the present stage. Now, he is good in sector 1 and 2 though. The fastest guy on sector 3, based on the telemetry delta, is Nel Bullion, who outbraked himself there as he entered the corner. And it's so close. Like, fastest third sector is a difference of 0.04.
Yeah, I think that's one of the sectors where Vaginetta's nimbleness kind of helps it. We have a few flat, fast, sweeping corners here at Oulton, which kind of favored the Ginetta, I would say. So I think that's the one sector where the Ginetta is able to get it right and get on the Alpine there.
I just think this car needs a bit of an additional secondary engine or more turbos to allow it to compete against the top boys of the Astons and the Mercs and those that can actually do long straights. Apart from that, it's a beautiful car. Left hand,
yeah, it's a
right
really
hand.
fun car.
Yeah.
The GT5 series they run with SRO is a great series to watch. I kind of compare the car to the GR86 we have over here in America. You know, I think it's a similar competition, and you know, they're both great series to watch, great series to follow. So I think that's two great series that kind of match up, match with each other.
And it's the only right-hand drive vehicle on track within the GT4 class. So out of its complete element for someone that would drive in the States, I say.
Yeah, 100%. You know, it's a lot more technical car, you would say. And even though they weigh about the same and have as much power, two very different cars with Ginetta and the Toyota GR86.
I still think it's sexy. It's just absolutely beautiful.
I agree. Yeah, it's a great car.
It sounds amazing. The rear end's beautiful. The front end's lovely. It's just one of those things that if I can have that as a road car, I'd love it. I'd absolutely love it. So
yeah, I think even if Ginettas were made, a little even more affordable, I think they'd be great road cars as well.
Yes, it's just one of those fantastic things. So no real battles at this moment. Everyone went and spread themselves. If you can look at the Delta telemetry map, you see there's no one within a few tenths of each other to make real headway. Oops. There we go. Pressing wrong buttons. So I guess with less than 3 minutes to go, as we've said, the top three boys definitely got this in a bag for a podium 1, 2, and 3. That would be Deploy, Bullion, and Patterson. Prius has settled in very nicely there in 4th spot. Made the move on Wilson where he made the mistake in corner 1. Mole, on the other hand, has capitalized on Duplessis and has never looked back since then, even though he did make a mistake earlier on. And then the two boys that have struggled is predominantly Herzog and Ferraro.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see, in race 2 what happens here, because I think Ferraro has a lot of pace that he was, showing earlier on before his incident, so I think he'll be able to mix it up with Patterson once again. I'm not sure Patterson will be so kind to him in race 2. I think he'll, defend a little bit harder in race 2 of his time by, but I think even Ashley Wilson is showing great pace. He just ran his fastest lap of the race, the 48.3 or 43.8, sorry. So I think that'll be a battle. I'll be surprised if Mole and Duplius don't go back at it again. So I think there'll be plenty of battles on track that we'll be able to see in race 2.
Yeah, I think race 2 is going to be quite dramatic. These boys are going to... Ooh, as we have a Porsche on the off track. Coming back slowly. I do hear another car not far from him. That's Mole. Mole avoids him, so that's good. Good observations. I think that Porsche has got a bit of damage as he slows down again. Doesn't want to create any further on-track damage, so good driving by him. We're on the final lap, so this is Deploy. Couple of corners for him to go. Now, of course, we're running into sector 2 at the moment, where we're going to go into the chicanes. A tough chicane here, because you've got to use so much of the curb, but then not lose that amount of momentum to get that exit speed up and over the hill. Still a phenomenal drive this track. GT4's class, absolute class.
Yeah, I think the elevation changes, aren't really shown in sim, but I imagine this track is so much fun to drive in real life. And, I think that's one of the greats about, the different countries and the different tracks that are in the countries. I would say each country or at least region has, the characteristics that come with their track. I think when you look at English tracks, you think about the elevation changes, the tightness of the corners, the skill that is involved to race these tracks. When you have American tracks, I'm thinking more of, the long straights, the brute force that comes with American cars, down, in Asia we have a lot more technical tracks, kind of like the UK, but typically we have, street circuits over there in Asia. So I really love that, each different continent can bring a different characteristic to a track.
Very true. That is Deploy taking the win by far. And then, of course, Nel Bullion coming there in 2nd place. Both boys celebrating heavily there. That's almost like burning rubber as he enters the corners. There we go. Alan Patterson in third, followed by Prius, who wasn't that far behind him though. Nor was Wilson, so close packed between the mid boys. Mole in sixth. And then, of course, Duplessis not far behind him in seventh in his Aston Martin. Herzig in eighth. And then Ferrara will take a ninth spot. Gernig again back in the T10s. You still got a bit of a distance to go to. I reckon that was actually quite fun. Round two
Yeah, I
of
think
this.
some some drivers will definitely have some good fights in round two. So I think, or race two. So I think we'll reset, and I think in race two we'll have a much better showing. I think, but that was still a great fight between Ferreira and Patterson for those early stages.
It was a phenomenal battle, man. I think Patterson was just clever enough to put his nose in spots that unsettled Ferrara, and I reckon Ferrara was either way too observant on what was going on behind him as opposed to in front of him, which unsettled him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Ferreira goes for a different setup here in race two. His car looked really unstable. I'm not sure if that was due to the initial incident that he had, or if that was just later on in the race, tires were off. But I wouldn't be surprised here if he maybe goes up a click on the rear wing, or makes some setup adjustments here between race one and race two.
Yeah, a few minor adjustments could bring a better race. So these boys will go back, have a bit of a break. We're gonna take a few seconds here just to get some juice. Don't go away. We'll definitely be back in the next couple of minutes for race two. 20 minutes race. We reckon it's gonna be quite phenomenal, and I expect hard battles coming up. Don't be shy. Be back soon. Again, round 2. Let me just get these broadcasting things sorted out. Too many buttons, too many administration. Nathan Nicholson Racing, JC on the mic. Let's go. That's a good shout out.
I love my boy Nathan. Yeah, he's a competitor in the Spec MX5 series over here in America, and he's doing great for himself. I think he's 16 years old currently, and he's a great guy.
Oh wow, really? Well, welcome, Nathan. It's always good to have a fellow driver and an individual that has superb, phenomenal knowledge of the sim racing aspect as well as real world racing. Because you do a bit of real world racing too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Tell us about that, man. How does that differ from sim racing to real world? What have you learned from sim racing that you apply to real world and vice versa?
I think the biggest thing is just the differences of what you can feel between real world and sim racing things. I personally believe it's a lot easier to go from sim racing to real racing. I started with autocross and track days, so personally, I think if you want to go from sim racing to real racing, start with autocross and start with track days. From there, go into your club races or whatever's around you. Or start in karting. But whatever your option is, take it slow, take it easy, be a sponge, soak everything in. I think that's the best way to learn. I think as far as went from real racing to sim racing, it's a lot harder. I don't really know because I went the other way, but from what I've been told, it's a lot easier to feel the car in your butt and your back when you're in the real car compared to sim racing.
Just gents, there's no in-game audio happening at the moment.
All right. Thank you. That's a nice one. Thanks for that, M3 Supercharged, and for jumping in and letting me know that I did not enable the sound for in-game. So hopefully everyone can hear the car now. And again, for those on stream, just let me know if we need to adjust anything from a mic perspective. I am probably not the guru in audio. I do know that my mic should be okay, as opposed to Jean-Carlos Cooler, who's the co-commentator this evening. Just let me know. If you want it a bit louder, shout out. If you want it a bit softer, give me a heads up. I'll adjust and tweak it on this end. So, round 2. Where were we at? We reckon that the Audi is going to probably be in the mix again. Whether he's done a few adjustments on his car to make it more stable, that is to be judged. I don't think Alan Patterson is going to allow that Audi to get in between him and Nail, because I reckon if he had or stayed behind the Ginetta, it would have been a great race for the second place. So this is going to be a race to watch.
Yeah, I'm almost interested to see if Patterson can get by Niall into turn 1 here as we're about to go green. Patterson has the Aston and might have a little bit of legs on the Ginetta, going into turn 1. So we'll see if he can pull off a move behind Deploy. But we go green, we're racing now. We'll see what shakes out of turn 1. Niall on the outside. Deploy's going to get by him, easy as that. The Audi does not get by him quickly this time. Patterson makes sure to cover off that move as they come down into turn 3.
Yeah, so Patterson was a bit bold and daring this time around, didn't allow the Audi to make any headway. Ferrara, on the other hand, was very smart and clever though, didn't go and be aggressive. But then again, there goes Patterson, makes the big mistake, opens it up for the Audi, stucks it in deep into the apex, makes contact with the Audi. Now that's going to turn a few things around now.
Yeah, 100%. I think Patterson, that might be on him there, but we'll see what our race steward says. But yeah, I think Patterson just messed up there going on that entry. Cold tires in these cars. These cars don't have any tire blankets, so I'm sure the tires are still cold. But we have Ashley Wilson now, or Anthony Wilson up in a P3 now, so good for him.
Good for Ashley now. So he capitalized on the mistakes that was made in front of him. Like you said, cold tires. Probably 99.9% certain that was not intentional. just missed his braking marker because he was on the racing line that he didn't intend to be on. So a bit of a dirty track for him. Got to the braking point, misjudged it, went too deep into the apex, and then unfortunately the Audi was on his left-hand side, thus creating the contact. So it's a bit of a mix whether that's a racing incident or not, but I can probably assure everyone that is on stream that that was not intentional. He is fighting back though, so taking the Porsche into turn 1 again, it's just not the start that Alan would have wanted.
No, I'm sure he's frustrated, especially at the last race, you know, letting Ferrer by and having him hang around the entire time. I'm sure Patterson is, you know, especially ecstatic himself, but I'm certainly sure he's more happy than Ferrer at this moment, who is down in P10 at the moment.
Yeah, and that was just an unfortunate hiccup there by Steven Koenig as well. So the Audi made a move on him into the turn 2, which is not really a second turn. Ooh, as we see, that was a wild one by that Janetta. That is hurting. Went way off track and then squeezed through the barriers to get back onto the track. Didn't cause any collisions, but nonetheless, he's still racing. Now this is where the fun is.
I'll be excited to see here what happens with Patterson, Wilson, and Prius here. You know, they're having a good mix. I think the Aston might have, you know, the legs here, and the Porsche has the handling. The Merc, I feel like that's a good balance of both, and Mole is actually our top fastest driver in the speed trap here. So 4 very different cars here, and we'll see how this turns out.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. This time around, Patterson looks to be the aggressor coming into it. Now, I reckon he is a bit frustrated with himself again because this is now 2 races in a row where he didn't get the ideal start he wanted to. Second race, did get a bit of a collision with an Audi. What the outcome of that is still to be determined, but managed to pass a Porsche. And Wilson just looks like he is sticking it up there with him. Doesn't want him to get away, but also simultaneously he's probably cautiously aware of what has happened in the previous race, because Janneman gained the position by actually making a mistake. So he's now all warmed up, ready to go. Don't want to do what he did the last time around. So I reckon I would agree, this is going to be entertaining.
Yeah, I see Wilson jumping back a little bit, but I'm sure if you asked him pre-race, you know, if he would be happy with the P4, he would definitely tell you yes. So I think all things considered, this race is going great for him at the moment. Currently P4, Prius right behind him. He's about 6/10 back as that gap closes into chicane. Looks like that Merc is a little bit better on the brakes here than the Porsche, so we'll see if he can make the move into a chicane or if he's going to go around the outside of a long sweeping corner here. But we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the grid now again. Now, Koenig did go off track. He is chasing down B. Stewart in car number 3 at the moment. These boys are still got a battle for themselves. Ferrara, on the other hand, is slowly gaining momentum again. He's chasing down Duplessis in the Aston Martin. Based on race pace, it doesn't seem like he's on point with the front runners. And again, Deploy running a 41.5 as the fastest lap.
Yeah, I mean, Deploy's absolutely flying at this moment. Niall, you know, can't even stay within a second of him in that Ginetta. So he's absolutely moving. Nothing against Niall's driving ability there. I think Ginetta is a little slower than the Alpine just based on BOP. You know, I think maybe if he's a little better of a car, then maybe he'd be a little closer. But that Alpine is absolutely flying at this moment.
Yeah, it's like leading from start to finish, 2 races in a row. Only himself will be able to ruin his own race, and he just looks unstoppable.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening here, but it looks like we have both Koenig and Stewart off track, so I think there might have been an incident between those 2 drivers going into the last corner here. I'm not sure if, you know, Stewart went for the dive bomb or what happened here.
Pick it up. So they're coming through the final turn. Force brakes.
Does he go wide on the exit here? He does. Oh, and Koenig all by himself.
Both cars killed themselves, so I reckon Koenig just tried to avoid him, suddenly picked on the brake marks as soon as he saw that Porsche turning and didn't want to create contact, thus unsettling himself.
Yeah, it's a shame there. They were having a pretty good mix between those two cars, so they're a bit more spread out at the moment. As Mole gets by Wilson, I'm not sure if Wilson had an incident, but he's down to P6 at the moment. So it looks like Mole up into P5, Prius up into P4, and Wilson down to P6.
Oh, let's see if we can get that. Yeah, so out of the chicanes there, Wilson made a slight error, thus losing all the momentum coming down the long straight. Had to have made a small error there. So again, two mistakes, 2 races. Oh, he's probably hitting that steering wheel out of frustration.
Yeah, we'll see if he's able to make a comeback here on Mole and Prius. You know, I think he has pretty decent pace, so he may be able to stick with the McLaren and Merc and make something happen here, but I'm sure we'll see later on. But, you know, looking at the top of the board, we have Duplo running a 41.0, which is a second and a half faster than any other car out there at the moment. He is absolutely flying up front, so props to him for sure. He will be our championship leader after this race, and I think he's well deserving of that.
Definitely is. He is flying. He probably did a few tweaks on his car as well just to get a bit more balance, but he is phenomenal in the second race. Now these 3 boys are battling at this moment, and again, this is for 4th position, not even a podium. And the question stands whether Duplessis and Ferrara might have enough time, again 12 minutes only left, to catch these guys and make a move.
Yeah, I think there certainly is a chance. If Ferrara and Duplessis can, you know, work something out where they, you know, get by each other cleanly and quickly, or, you know, decide to stay in the same order, I think if they work together, they can definitely catch Wilson and maybe even fight for P4, you know, if they can get up through the field.
Yeah, they do. You can see Ferrara slowly gaining on Duplessis. I don't see the time coming down between Duplessis and Wilson at this moment. Wilson's not letting Mole get away. Mole's not letting Prius go getting away. So they are within a second of each other. Tight battle. I think any small error between these 3 will allow them to lose positions.
Yeah, 100%. Just going back to the incident with Wilson there, you know, losing it in the chicane. The chicane is a big part of this track, which people don't really realize. And setting up a car for that chicane can really help you in the long run. You have a long straight, as Wilson goes off there, he manages to correct it just barely. He'll lose some time, though, to the car behind Duplessis, but I think it's also Ferrara off back in the background. I think he went off a little bit through T1 as well. But like I was saying, you know, the chicane's in a very important part of this track. You know, if you can nail that down, it's really hard for a car to get past you.
Yeah, because it's all about entry and exit speed. And I think what individuals tend to make a mistake from that chicane is they try and be too slow heading in, therefore losing all the momentum going out. So you need to manage your speed going into the corner, but then play with your throttle to get enough momentum out of it, but not get too wide off the track, because your rear tires will slip and slide, and then the guy behind you will either misjudge you, make contact with you, or simultaneously lose momentum. So it is a tough corner to manage, but that's the fun of Oulton Park.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, going even deeper, Oulton Park is one of those tracks where it's, you know, it's tricky to set up car up for, because we have everything here. We have long sweeping corners, we have slow hairpins, we have chicanes. You know, we really have every type of corner here at this track, so it's hard to set up a car for all those things. And that's not even mentioning the bumps and the elevation change that this track has. So, you know, to build an all-rounded setup here, you know, that's a really big key to the race.
Yes, and the balance of your tires over this track is fairly equal, whether it's left or right, because there are corners here where there's so much strain on your left-hand tires, but then as you go down this track or down this corner, which is turn 3, you put that amount of strain on your right-hand side. So the balance of your car has to be on point on either ends.
Yeah, and I mean, especially, you know, thinking about it, like, even the racing here, that's one of the beauty parts of it, is thinking about a move, you're going to make it to set it up from so far in advance, because every corner, you know, you switch back and forth. So if you want to make a move, you know, you can set it up for maybe even 3-4 corners of forward just to get that run in that hairpin.
Exactly. So where we stand now, Moore hasn't gained much. We knew and saw and noted how Ashley made a few errors So that probably unsettled him a bit. It also seemed to have unsettled Ferrara because he's not gained anything either. So again, last 10 minutes of the race, fairly split grid at the moment. I'm trying to now see if I can find the map. There we go, map-wise. But from racing point of view, see Deploy is going through the start-finish line at the present moment, and Deploy is sitting here at the back-end side of Sector 3. So anything's still possible. Any individual can make a mistake and lose plenty of position.
Yeah, 100%. And one thing I do see here is Duplessis, you know, he did catch 8/10 to Wilson last lap, so that gap is coming down. It was 2.1 going into the lap. I think he lost some time there, so, but it was down to 1.8, you know, before he made that mistake there. So I think, you know, with the amount of time there is left, I think there may be a chance that he can, you know, he might be able to catch Wilson if he keeps it on track, keeps it clean.
Yeah, and the only man that's actually doing very well at this stage with the Aston Martin is Patterson, of course. So I think the Aston is a very easy car to drive, whether it's the GT4 or the GT3. You just gotta make sure that you are in the right gear and not over throttle the car. Ooh, as he goes, nearly made a fumble there as he exited that high speed corner.
Yeah, I think it took a little bit too much curve there. But like you were saying, you know, I think the Aston is a really well-rounded car. We actually have Mole within 8/10 of Prius now, so we do have a battle on track, but it's heating up currently. But yeah, the Aston is a great car. You know, I think it can do a plentiful amount of things. So whether it's curves, high speed, low speed corners, you know, I think it's one of the most balanced cars in this game. And I think even in the way, it's the car to choose.
Yes, most certainly. It's well-rounded, well-balanced. Although I think the Mercedes cars are slowly coming back into play again. The more I've seen the ACC after the recent update and all the tweaks, I've heard and saw the rumors, and I could be wrong, but that's what I've seen thus far, is a lot of individuals have moved away from mid-rear engine cars, like the Hondas and so forth, and are starting to move into the front engine ones, which is your Mercs, your Astons and so forth. Is that true? Or is it just me looking at different streams where people prefer those cars?
No, I would totally agree, and even deeper, going into real life stuff. I think we have a lot of more teams choosing those front engine cars nowadays. You know, if you look at the SRO grids, you typically see BMWs, Mercedes, Astons. You know, these front engine cars. You know, occasionally you see the new Ferrari 296 or McLaren 720S, but you know, typically it is those German front engine cars that you see on the grids nowadays.
And it's all about good balance and how you can set up the car. And I think it's very difficult to have that mid-rear engine, whether that's performance-based or not really meant for GT3, GT4. They're just not the popular brand on track nowadays.
Yeah, that's why I was so, you know, I was kind of almost confused when I took a look at the, oh, looks like we have an incident here, Prius off track dropping down to P5, but when the Corvette C8 came out, I heard it was mid-engine, you know, it's one of the only cars that has decided to go from front engine to mid-engine, so it was a little bit of a shock to me.
Now that would be interesting to see how that develops further. So, Janeman Prius made a slight error. That opened the door up for Mole to take that fourth position. I don't think Prius is going to be happy. Again, two cars making the same mistake at that corner exit. One was Wilson, now it's Prius, both of them losing positions, going backwards in the race as opposed to forward. Definitely not what they would have wanted. But they're about the only battles. Ferrara quietly at the back, Hurtzek not being overly challenged. He did make a mistake at the beginning of the race, seemingly has settled in very nicely in the 45. Stewart and Koenig have lost quite a bit of momentum as they've progressed. Deploy, still the fastest man on track. Only this time around he's got fastest first, second and third sector. Drive through for Ferrara.
Yeah, looks like Ferrara's gone off track one too many times there. He'll be our first participant that was receiving a drive-through. You know, I said about it, you know, in race 1, I talked about, you know, the potential of it, but, you know, here we have our first one. You know, fortunately for him, he wasn't in the most, you know, contention for a win here, so the effect will be nullable in that scenario, but unfortunate nonetheless.
Just not his evening is what I'm going to go for. Race 1 looked well, car didn't look balanced, lost it in the corner, had contact with with Patterson. Again, that looked very accidental because I couldn't believe that Patterson would have had anywhere to go apart from trying to avoid him as best as he can, but that happened. And then again, race 2, not the best start, but managed to stay clean, and again, contact with it's like a back-to-back contact with Patterson. That sounds awful though.
Yeah, one driver we haven't talked about like almost at all, Niall Bullion. I know he arrived in drive this race, so you know he's done a great job. He's been P2 both races, no mistakes from him, just running a clean race. You know, he hasn't tried to push himself to catch him to deploy and made mistakes. You know, he's just ran his own race, and I have to compliment him on that because he's doing a great job running consistent laps here. And you know, we haven't talked about him much. He's been out of the spotlight. He hasn't been in any battles, but for him to arrive and drive and have this pace, he's doing great.
I think most of these individuals predominantly didn't arrive and drive. I mean, GT4 is not that complicated from a setup point of view. You can do a few tweaks here and there, not as wide as the GT3. So get your balance right, get your tire pressures right to try and get them in the most optimal temperature range, and then just make sure you hit your brake markers, apexes and exits, and you should be okay. I can't foresee like a guy like Deploy would have sat weeks trying to learn and make the best of this track. He probably did exactly the same. Natural talent. Natural talent.
That's one of the things I love about GT4 is it's like, you know, it's not a spec series by any means, but the amount of things you can change on the car is very limited. So, you know, typically if you see two of the same cars, they're normally running the same kind of setup for the most part. So that is one part I love, where it's kind of like you almost just hop in and drive, and you have to deal with what's what, because you can't really change that much. But it looks like we have Duploy. Is he off?
Is he off? I can't see him.
The yellow flag. I'm not sure what's happened to him. I think he's off in turn 1. Yes, he is. He's in the grass. That will promote Niall Bullion to the lead of this race. I'm not sure how he ended up there, but looks like he's just gone straight on from turn 1. I'm not sure if there's a brake malfunction there, or maybe a steering malfunction, but definitely some sort of mechanical error, I'm going to say, to lead him off in the turn 1 like that.
And he's still there, so I reckon he's either lost connection or something's gone horribly wrong, because he's dropping. Niall Bullion is the man that's now leading the race. No, Deploy, definitely. I think that's a mechanical failure in the sim racing world for Deploy. That's going to change up the whole championship. Well, probably not by that much, but he's not running back-to-back races, though.
Yeah, you have to wonder now. I wonder if Patterson will take back the lead for the championship here with Deploy. Yeah, I don't even know if he's going to finish this race. He might be down in P11 at this rate. So we'll see how this plays out all in all. Deploy overused his drop round as well. Round 3 he was unable to make, so this might mix up the championship quite a bit.
And Ferraro still hasn't done his drive-through, so that's daunting, because would that not penalize him more on a timing scale and set him back far back?
Yes, it definitely will, yes. So, interesting to see him not taking that penalty. But Niall Bullion with the win tonight. Just one more corner to finish. And hats off to this man. He's driven the Ginetta to a win in round 2. And I just got to give it to the man. Great race. Well done, Niall Bullion.
Unexpected. Final lap, I reckon mechanical failure by Deploy gave the victory to Niall Bullion. Wonderful drive there. That brings Alan Patterson into P2 and Maul in the McLaren in P3. Phenomenal. Yeah, that could have been Janneman, Prius, or Wilson, or Duplessis.
Wilson will come home in P5, Duplessis in P6. Pereira crosses the line in P7, but I'm not sure what he'll be after this drive-through.
He's going to go in the pits for that. You can see him heading down.
It won't clear, so we'll see what happens there.
30
I believe
seconds.
Wilson will come in P7.
And then, of
I
course,
think we'll still come P9.
P9. That's where it stands. I reckon that was quite good. As we watch Stewart coming back, Noel Bullion standing off the grass, taking his victory by a surprise. Didn't have it up until the last lap. So back-to-back 20-minute races. That was quite an eventful race in both circumstances.
Yeah,
There we
for
go.
sure. We talked about it, before the race, the chance of Niall Bullion pulling out a win here. But it's been underpowered all season long, and we talked about it. If this is going to be the race to win, it was going to be here at Oulton Park, and I'm really happy and pleased to see him pull it off here.
Definitely. So this concludes our evening for the races. Mr. Schooler, thanks for joining, for commentating. That was absolutely fun. I don't know if you're going to join next week. Next week we got the Laguna Seca race, which will be the final race of the championship. I'd love to see where that evolves. Any final words from your end?
Do we have time to bring Niall in for your interview?
I was about to say, I convinced him to come for an interview because he won.
I think we should.
I think we should. We could get anyone, even Deploy, because I'd love to know what happened to Deploy. Where is he? There he is. Let me bring him in. There we go. Can we get him? Mr. Bullion.
Gentlemen.
Niall, you are our race 2 round 5 winner. So talk to us about that race and your last lap encounter with the win.
I saw an Alpine fly off into the distance, and then I knew it was in the bag. That's unfortunate for Deploy, but I'll take it, boys. I will take it.
Yeah, so we noticed, we thought that the jet has been underpowered all season long, and I said myself before the race, if there was a race you were going to win, it was going to be here at Oulton Park. How'd the car feel today?
Honestly, sensational. Like, that car is built for that track. It was a very fun drive.
It looked like a lot of fun. This time you didn't have any other cars in front of you to chase down, apart from the Alpine, who gave you that victory at the end. Again, a win is a win, whether it's by a mile or a disconnect or a mechanical failure. It is still there. But I felt happy for you, man. You didn't need to try and pass someone on the straights.
No, it was a pretty. Both races for me were pretty quiet, but our man, it's Christian, isn't it? He's
Yes.
he's untouchable at the front. Like I think second was always the best I could have possibly done without any disconnects or whatever would happen. But yeah, it's very unfortunate for him. But yeah, I'll take it. I will take it.
Yeah, wish we could get him on here just to hear his observation. I'm fairly certain he would be very disappointed for that last race. It just looked like he had it in the bag, 2 back-to-back victories. Didn't get the final one. Again, unstoppable. I don't know if anyone's going to catch Deploy next week at Laguna. What do you reckon your odds is next week against that man?
I think I'd have to start practicing tonight.
Green light, you don't care.
He is I don't know. Him and that Alpine is a deadly combo. But I'll give it a bash. I think Laguna is another track that the Ginetta might be okay on, so I'll give it a bash.
No. All good. Thanks for joining. And again, for everyone on the stream, thanks for watching. From my end, good night. God bless. Goodbye. Any last words from you, Schooler?
Great racing all. Thank you guys for joining, and I'll be back next week.
Cheerio. Have a good night.
Good work, Niall.
Hey.
That was fun to watch.
Honestly, I think like I wasn't gonna say it on stream, but like when I arrived in the server, that's the first laps I did. So like, maybe if I practiced, I could have hung up with him a little bit longer. But man, that guy's quick.
Bossman, can I close the spreadsheet? Have you grabbed what you need? Okay, cool.
I called him before the race, Niall. I said you were gonna, if there was gonna be a race you're gonna win, it was gonna be that one. I didn't think it was gonna be in that fashion, but.
No, we need some design intervention as well. There we go.
Sean's